The morning sun cast long shadows across the military demonstration field as the alien visitors arrived. Their ship descended without sound, a massive dark shape that seemed to swallow light itself. Captain Day watched from his position on the platform, his uniform crisp despite the early hour. Beside him stood Lieutenant Hana, her expression carefully neutral as the alien delegation emerged from their vessel. The aliens were tall, nearly 8 feet, with scaled skin that shimmered between green and blue. Their leader, Ambassador Thrall, moved with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. His eyes, large and golden, swept across the human military equipment with obvious disdain. General Tay had organized this demonstration 3 months after first contact with the Galactic Coalition. Earth had been invited to join the greater cosmic community, but the invitation came with conditions. The aliens wanted to see what humanity could offer, what defenses they possessed, what value they might bring to the coalition. What they saw disappointed them greatly. The demonstration began with small arms. Human soldiers fired rifles downrange, the sharp crack of gunpowder echoing across the field. Bullets tore through paper targets with precision, but Ambassador Thrall merely crossed his arms. His translator device, a small crystal embedded in his chest, conveyed his thoughts in perfect Korean. Primitive chemical projectiles. We stopped using such weapons 2,000 years ago. Captain Day felt his jaw tighten but said nothing. Lieutenant Hana shifted her weight slightly, the only sign of her irritation. They had expected this reaction. Everything humanity possessed was ancient by galactic standards. The demonstration continued. Artillery pieces fired shells that arced across the sky before exploding in designated impact zones. Tanks rolled across the terrain, their cannons thundering. Fighter jets screamed overhead, breaking the sound barrier with sonic booms that rattled windows in the nearby buildings. With each display, the alien observers grew more dismissive. One of them, a younger officer named Vex, actually laughed at the tank demonstration. The sound was strange, almost musical, but the mockery was universal. "Your armor is so slow," Vex said through his translator. "Our scouts move faster than your heaviest vehicles, and those cannons, they would not even scratch our shields." Thrall nodded in agreement. He turned to General Tay, who stood watching from the command tent. "General, I appreciate your efforts today, but I must be honest. Your weapons are toys, children playing at war. Our shields deflect plasma fire hot enough to melt mountains. Our particle beams can cut through starship hulls. What you have shown us today would not harm a single coalition soldier." General Tay met the alien's gaze without flinching. "Perhaps, but they serve our purposes. Against whom? Each other?" Thrall gestured at the equipment around them. "You are divided into nations that fight over resources on a single planet. You know nothing of real warfare. In the galaxy, conflicts are decided by technology and power. You have neither." The words stung because they contained truth. Humanity had barely reached its own moon when the aliens arrived, while the coalition traveled between stars in hours. Earth's fastest ships took months to reach the outer planets. The technological gap was enormous, possibly insurmountable. After the demonstration ended, the alien delegation returned to their ship without ceremony. Their departure was swift and cold, leaving an uncomfortable silence in their wake. Captain Day walked over to where Lieutenant Hana stood watching the sky. "They think we are worthless," Hana said quietly. "They think we are harmless," Day corrected. "There is a difference." General Tay joined them, his weathered face showing no emotion. He had fought in 3 wars during his career, always against human opponents. Now he faced something entirely new, an enemy that did not even consider humanity worth fighting. "Sir, the intelligence reports." Commander Bach approached with a tablet. "Our satellites detected 3 Viridian battle groups repositioning. They are moving toward our solar system." Tay studied the data. The Viridians were one of the most powerful species in the coalition. Their empire spanned dozens of star systems, and their military might was legendary. If they were moving fleets toward Earth, it meant only one thing. "They plan to take our planet," Tay said calmly. All that talk about peaceful integration was theater. "They want our resources, and they think we cannot stop them." "Can we?" Hana asked. "Not with conventional warfare," Tay admitted. "But we do not need to fight conventionally." Across the Pacific Ocean, deep beneath the waves, Dr. Mina worked in a secret research facility. She had been studying the alien technology for 3 months, ever since humanity received its first samples during diplomatic exchanges. What she discovered fascinated and terrified her in equal measure. The alien shields were incredible pieces of engineering. They could deflect enormous amounts of energy, stopping plasma bolts and particle beams with ease. But they had been designed for a specific type of warfare, optimized for the weapons that galactic civilizations used. Nobody in the galaxy used bullets anymore. Why would they? Energy weapons were cleaner, more efficient, more powerful. Kinetic projectiles were relics of primitive societies, which meant the alien shields had never been tested against them. The math is interesting, Dr. Mina explained to her colleague. Engineer Sung. Their shields deflect energy by creating electromagnetic fields, but solid mass, especially at high velocity, interacts differently. The shields were never designed to stop physical objects. Sung pulled up simulations on his computer. So our railguns might work? Better than work. They might ignore the shields entirely. The physics are completely different. This discovery changed everything. Earth's weapons were not useless. They were unexpected. The aliens had grown so accustomed to fighting each other with similar technology that they had forgotten older forms of warfare existed. Back at the military headquarters, Lieutenant Hana reviewed intelligence reports late into the night. Her younger brother Jin served on the lunar defense platform, one of humanity's few off-world installations. The thought of actual combat made her stomach twist with anxiety. Captain Day found her in the analysis room, staring at holographic projections of the alien fleet movements. You should rest. I cannot. If they attack, Jin is in the first line of fire. Day understood. Everyone had family, loved ones who would be in danger if war came. That was the reality of planetary defense. There were no safe places when the entire world was threatened. The aliens made a mistake today, Day said. They showed us contempt instead of caution. They revealed what they think of us. That gives us an advantage. How? They have better weapons, better ships, better everything. They have never fought an enemy like us. Every war they remember was against opponents using similar technology. They expect energy weapons, shields, and space battles following established rules. We do not have to follow their rules. The next morning brought confirmation of everyone's fears. Long-range sensors detected the Viridian warships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 15 heavy cruisers appeared, each one massive enough to carry thousands of soldiers and weapons capable of destroying cities. The alien commander, General Kresh, broadcast his message across all frequencies. His voice was deep and rumbling, translated into every human language simultaneously. Humans of Earth, the Viridian Empire requires your planet's resources. You will surrender immediately and accept our authority. Resistance is pointless. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our vessels. You have 1 hour to respond. In the command center, every screen showed the alien fleet. The cruisers were enormous, dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. Their shields glowed faintly, evidence of power generators running at ready levels. This was a force that had conquered worlds, and now it focused on Earth. General Tay stood before the main display, surrounded by officers waiting for his orders. The weight of billions of lives rested on his decisions. He could surrender, save humanity from immediate destruction, but condemn them to slavery under alien rule, or he could fight with weapons the enemy considered toys. Send our response, Tay ordered. Tell General Kresh that Earth declines his generous offer. If the Viridian Empire wants our world, they will have to take it. The response transmitted across space, reaching the alien fleet in seconds. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Kresh's laughter echoed through the communication channels. So be it. Perhaps you need a demonstration of our power. Watch and despair. One Viridian cruiser broke formation, accelerating toward Mars, where human mining colonies extracted resources from the red planet. The ship's plasma batteries began charging, energy readings climbing to devastating levels. They were going to destroy the Mars colonies as a warning. All defensive platforms prepare to fire, General Tay commanded. His voice was steady, showing none of the fear that gripped his heart. Target that cruiser. Show them what primitive humans can do. The lunar platform, Earth's orbital stations, and hidden asteroid bases all locked weapons on the approaching alien vessel. Not energy weapons, not plasma cannons, just railguns. Electromagnetically accelerated projectiles traveling at tremendous speeds. Lieutenant Hana's brother Jin sat at the firing controls on the lunar platform, his hands steady despite his racing pulse. He had trained for this moment. never truly believing it would come. Around him, other operators prepared their weapons, all of them knowing they faced impossible odds. "Fire," came the order. The railguns spoke as one, sending tungsten rods screaming through space faster than any bullet Earth had ever produced. The projectiles crossed the distance to the alien cruiser in seconds. The Viridian shields activated, energy fields flaring bright as they intercepted the incoming fire. The aliens had confidence in their defenses. Those shields had stopped plasma bolts, particle beams, and every energy weapon known to the galaxy. But they had never stopped solid metal moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The shields flickered and failed. The tungsten rods punched through the cruiser's armor like it was paper, catastrophic impacts releasing energy equivalent to nuclear explosions. Secondary detonations rippled through the alien vessel as systems overloaded and ammunition stores cooked off. Jin stared at his screen in disbelief. Direct hit. Target is breaking apart. The Viridian cruiser died in silence, space swallowing its death throes. Debris scattered in all directions, pieces of alien technology tumbling through the void. Where there had been a mighty warship, now there was only wreckage. On Earth in the command center, nobody spoke for several seconds. They had done it. Humanity's ancient weapons had destroyed an alien vessel that was supposed to be invincible. General Tay allowed himself a small smile. Now they understand. We may be primitive, but we are not helpless. Maintain defensive positions. Let us see if they want to continue this conversation. Across space aboard the Viridian flagship, General Kresh stared at the tactical display in shock. One of his cruisers simply gone, destroyed by weapons his intelligence reports had dismissed as harmless. The humans had done something impossible. "Recalibrate all shields," he ordered, his voice tight with anger and surprise. "Find a frequency that stops those projectiles." But he knew it would not be simple. The humans fought with mass and velocity, not energy. His shields were not designed for such attacks. For the first time in his long military career, General Kresh felt a cold finger of doubt touch his confidence. The battle for Earth had begun, and the outcome was far from certain. The destruction of the Viridian cruiser created 6 hours of tense silence. The alien fleet held position at the edge of effective weapon range, clearly analyzing what had happened. Inside Earth's command center, exhaustion mixed with cautious hope as officers monitored every scanner and sensor. Commander Bach studied the enemy formation on the main display. The remaining 14 cruisers had spread out, their shields cycling through different frequencies. Bright flashes of energy rippled across their hulls as defensive systems recalibrated. "They are trying to adapt their shields," Bach explained to General Tay, "searching for configurations that can deflect solid projectiles." "Will they succeed?" Tay asked. Bach shrugged. "Eventually, perhaps. But shields strong enough to stop our railgun rounds will drain enormous power. They must choose between defense and offense. They cannot have both at full strength." This was exactly what Dr. Mina had predicted. The aliens had built their entire military doctrine around energy weapons. Changing that doctrine mid-battle was possible but difficult and costly. Across the solar system, human forces repositioned for the next engagement. Captain Day coordinated fleet movements from his station, directing ships scattered throughout space. Earth's military was divided into 3 main groups. The orbital defense forces protected Earth and the Moon. The Mars contingent guarded the mining colonies. The outer system teams hid among the asteroids, ready for rapid strikes. Lieutenant Hanna managed the civilian evacuation efforts. Major cities were moving millions of people into underground shelters. These bunkers had been built during the Cold War decades ago, then expanded after first contact with the aliens. Nobody had truly believed they would be needed, but now they represented humanity's last refuge if the orbital defenses failed. "Shelter capacity at 80%, Hanna reported. "We can protect most of the population from orbital bombardment." "Most is not all," Tay replied grimly. "But it is the best we can do." The standoff broke when 3 Viridian cruisers began advancing toward Earth. Their approach was careful, shields at maximum power, weapons charging. General Kresh's voice came through the communication channels, less mocking than before but still confident. "You destroyed one vessel through surprise. Clever for primitives, but 3 cruisers with adapted shielding will not fall so easily. Surrender now, or we demonstrate the true power of the Viridian Empire." Tay glanced at Dr. Mina, who had joined the command staff. She gave a slight nod. Project Typhoon was ready for deployment. Launch when in range, Tay ordered quietly. The approaching cruisers opened fire while still far away. Plasma lances, superheated streams of energy, scorched through space at incredible speed. 2 orbital platforms took direct hits, their armor melting under the thermal assault. Explosions bloomed silently in the void as ammunition stores detonated. Dozens of personnel died instantly, vaporized by heat that could melt steel. Earth's railguns returned fire immediately. Tungsten rods accelerated to tremendous velocities, but this time the aliens were prepared. Their shields, now reinforced and reconfigured, deflected most impacts. The kinetic projectiles that had been so devastating before now glanced off protective barriers, but the shields came at a price. The 3 cruisers slowed noticeably, forced to divert power from engines to defensive systems. Their advance became a crawl, energy readings fluctuating as reactors strained to meet demand. "They can stop our railguns now," Bach observed, "but barely. Look at their power consumption." It was true. The alien ships were burning through energy reserves at unsustainable rates. They could maintain these powerful shields for hours, maybe days, but not indefinitely. That was when Typhoon launched. From hidden silos in the Arctic and Antarctic, missiles erupted into the sky. They were not standard rockets, but hybrid systems that combined human engineering with recovered alien technology. The warheads looked conventional on sensors, designed to fool enemy analysis systems. The Viridian point defense engaged immediately. Plasma bursts intercepted most missiles, destroying them in brilliant flashes. But 3 missiles penetrated the defensive fire, detonating at precise distances from each cruiser. Instead of explosions, the warheads released clouds of tiny projectiles. Millions of tungsten balls, each smaller than a grain of rice but traveling at devastating speeds. The military called it flechette saturation. The effect was like firing a shotgun loaded with millions of pellets. The Viridian shields flickered under the distributed assault. Each individual projectile carried minimal energy, far too little to threaten the shields alone. But millions hitting simultaneously created a different problem. The shields had to deflect each impact, processing countless threats in microseconds. Power conduits overloaded, generators exploded from the strain, safety systems triggered emergency shutdowns. The shields failed. "All batteries fire for effect," Captain Day commanded. Every railgun in range opened fire at once. The 3 cruisers, suddenly vulnerable, staggered under the bombardment. Tungsten rods punched through armor plating. Guided missiles with armor-piercing warheads found weak points. Even conventional explosive shells, ancient technology by galactic standards, tore into exposed hull sections. One cruiser tried to retreat, its engines flaring desperately. Jin, still at his post on the lunar platform, tracked the fleeing vessel with cold precision. His railgun spoke once, the projectile crossing space in seconds to strike the cruiser's engine section. The alien ship went tumbling, power dead, atmosphere venting through multiple hull breaches. The other 2 cruisers continued fighting with admirable discipline. Their crews knew they were dying but maintained fire until the end. Plasma lances claimed another human platform, before both alien vessels finally succumbed to the relentless kinetic bombardment. Silence returned to the battlefield. 3 more Viridian cruisers destroyed, but at terrible cost. Earth had lost 4 orbital platforms and over 300 personnel. The exchange ratio favored humanity, but barely. In the underwater facility, Engineer Sung monitored battle data with growing concern. "The remaining cruisers are maintaining distance. They are learning from each engagement," Dr. Mina nodded. "They will change tactics. Mass their forces, advance in coordinated formations, overwhelm our defenses through sheer numbers." Her prediction proved accurate within hours. The 11 surviving Viridian cruisers reorganized into a tight battle group, shields overlapping to create layered defenses. They began advancing together, their combined firepower capable of destroying orbital platforms faster than humanity could replace them. General Tay studied the tactical situation with growing dread. They are pushing toward Mars. If they take the colonies, they can use the civilians as hostages. Commander Bach pulled up fleet dispositions. "Our Mars defense group is ready, but they face 3-to-1 odds." "Not quite," Tay said quietly. He activated a secure communication channel. "Captain Hyun, you are authorized for Operation Asteroid." In the asteroid belt, Captain Hyun received the order with grim satisfaction. His small fleet had been hiding among the rocks for weeks, ships powered down to minimal signatures invisible to enemy sensors. Humanity's asteroid mining operations had developed sophisticated techniques for moving massive rocks, adjusting orbits, extracting resources. Those same techniques could be weaponized. All ships, begin acceleration sequence, Hyun ordered. Target packages Alpha through Gamma. 3 asteroids began moving. Not quickly, but steadily. Each rock was enormous, comparable in size to a city block. Human ships pushed them with everything they had, engines burning at maximum thrust. Trajectory calculations refined continuously, accounting for the alien fleet's movements. The Viridians detected the asteroids but dismissed them initially. Space was full of rocks. These appeared to be debris disturbed by the battle's shockwaves, random objects drifting on lazy trajectories. By the time sensors identified the engine signatures attached to each asteroid, it was too late for evasive maneuvers. 3 multi-thousand-ton rocks, accelerated to tremendous velocities, slammed into the Viridian formation. The impacts released kinetic energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. Shields designed to deflect plasma and particle beams simply could not handle solid mass at such speeds. 2 cruisers vanished instantly, smashed into clouds of debris. A third survived but tumbled out of formation, half its superstructure torn away by the glancing blow. The remaining 8 Viridian cruisers scattered, suddenly wary. General Kresh, watching from his flagship, felt something he had not experienced in decades of military service. Fear. These humans fought without honor, without elegance. They used rocks as weapons, rocks. It was barbaric, primitive, and devastatingly effective. His communication officer looked shaken. General, we have lost 7 cruisers, nearly half our battle group. I can count, Kresh snapped. He studied the tactical display, trying to understand the human mindset. They refused to follow conventional warfare rules. Every engagement revealed new surprises, new ways to turn their technological disadvantages into tactical victories. General Tay broke into the Viridian command frequency, his voice calm and measured. General Kresh, we can continue this exchange if you wish. We have more rocks. Many more rocks. The asteroid belt contains millions of potential projectiles. How many ships are you willing to lose? The 72-hour countdown began immediately. Every military installation across Earth worked around the clock, preparing for the arrival of the Viridian reinforcements. Sleep became a luxury few could afford. Coffee and determination kept soldiers at their posts. In the underwater research facility, Dr. Mina examined fragments of destroyed alien vessels that recovery drones had collected from the debris fields. Each piece offered insights into Viridian technology, revealing both strengths and critical weaknesses. Their power systems are centralized, Mina explained to Engineer Sung, pointing at holographic schematics. One main reactor feeds everything: weapons, shields, propulsion, life support. It makes their ships efficient but creates a vulnerability. Sung studied the diagrams carefully. If we could overload their reactors somehow. Exactly. I have been working on a feedback weapon. A pulse transmitted at specific frequencies could cause cascade failures in their power distribution network. But we need to get extremely close to transmit it, within their shields. You are describing boarding actions, Sung said quietly. Sending our people onto their ships. Mina nodded. The idea was desperate, possibly suicidal. Humanity had trained for boarding operations, but only in simulations. Actually infiltrating an alien warship filled with hostile forces seemed impossible. Yet conventional warfare was not working fast enough. The Viridian reinforcements would overwhelm Earth's defenses through sheer numbers. At the main command center, General Tay convened an emergency meeting. Holographic images of military leaders from every nation appeared around the conference table. Exhaustion showed on every face, but determination remained strong. We cannot win a direct engagement against 3 battle groups, Tay stated bluntly. Current projections show our defenses will be overwhelmed within hours of their arrival. We need unconventional solutions. Captain Hyun, fresh from his asteroid attack mission, stood before the assembled leaders. Sir, I propose we use their own tactics against them. The Viridians rely on long-range plasma bombardment. They have not fought close-quarters combat in generations, maybe centuries. But we have Marines, boarding parties, ship-to-ship fighting. That is human history. Commander Bach looked skeptical. Their vessels are enormous. Even if we breached the hull, we would be fighting in their environment against their soldiers. True, Yun acknowledged. But when did the Viridian troops last fight an infantry battle? Their powered armor is impressive, their energy weapons advanced, but they have no recent combat experience. Our Marines train constantly because we always expected to be the underdog. Lieutenant Hana raised her hand. Sir, I volunteer to lead the boarding operation. Captain Day turned sharply toward her. Lieutenant, that mission would be extremely dangerous. I understand, sir. But I have studied their ship layouts from the recovered debris. I know basic Viridian language from the diplomatic exchanges, and respectfully, we need officers who understand both combat tactics and alien psychology. General Tay considered the proposal in silence. Boarding enemy warships was risky beyond measure, but sitting behind defenses waiting for overwhelming force was simply slow defeat. Sometimes the only path forward was through impossible odds. Approved, Tay finally said. Assemble a team. 20 Marines, our best. Captain Hyun will provide transport and cover fire. Dr. Mina, you have 48 hours to complete the feedback weapon. The next day, Hana selected her boarding team with extreme care. She needed soldiers experienced in zero-gravity combat, specialists who could handle explosives, and technical experts who could interface with alien computer systems. A young woman named Bora, brilliant with computer systems, volunteered immediately. I can crack their security, Bora promised. Give me 5 minutes with any terminal. Private June, barely 20 years old, checked his magnetic rifle repeatedly. Unlike the massive railguns mounted on orbital platforms, his weapon was compact, designed for close-quarters fighting in the tight corridors of spacecraft. Are you frightened? Bora asked him. June nodded honestly. Terrified. We are about to board an alien warship full of creatures that think we are primitive animals. Then we show them what primitive animals can do when cornered. Meanwhile, the Viridian fleet remained at standoff distance, neither attacking nor retreating. General Kresh was clearly communicating with his superiors, explaining how a supposedly primitive species had destroyed 7 of his cruisers. The explanation was not going well. Political enemies within the Viridian Empire were using his failures to undermine his position. Kresh studied tactical reports obsessively, trying to understand human warfare. The database showed that humans had been fighting each other continuously throughout their recorded history. Wars over territory, resources, ideologies, religions. They knew violence in ways the Viridians had forgotten during centuries of overwhelming technological superiority. His tactical officer Vex offered an uncomfortable observation. General, perhaps we should withdraw. Wait for reinforcements before engaging further. Withdraw? Kresh's voice carried dangerous anger. Retreat from primitives? That would destroy my career. No, we hold position. When the reinforcements arrive, we crush them with overwhelming force. No more testing, no more caution. Total victory, but doubt gnawed at him. The humans kept surprising him. What other tricks did they have prepared? 40 hours before the reinforcements were due to arrive, Captain Hyun's strike force prepared to depart. 12 ships, mostly frigates and destroyers, each modified with experimental jump drives reverse-engineered from captured alien technology. The drives were crude, risky, possibly fatal, but they allowed human ships to travel faster than light, reaching distant targets. Lieutenant Hana stood in the briefing room, her team gathered around her. Through the window, Earth hung like a blue marble against the darkness of space. Everything they loved existed on that fragile sphere. Our target is the damaged cruiser that survived the asteroid impact, Hana explained, highlighting it on the tactical display. It is isolated from the main fleet, easier to approach. We board, fight our way to the reactor, plant Dr. Mina's device, and transmit the feedback pulse. Then we extract immediately. And if we cannot extract? June asked. Hana met his eyes steadily. Then we make sure the device activates anyway. The mission succeeds even if we do not. The words hung heavy in the air. Everyone understood. This was likely a one-way trip. Any questions? Hana asked. Nobody spoke. Then let us show these aliens what humans do when protecting their home. The strike force departed in tight formation, jumping to hyperspace with coordinates locked on the damaged Viridian cruiser. The sensation of faster-than-light travel was disorienting, reality seeming to twist and compress. Then they emerged near their target. The wounded cruiser tumbled slowly through space, its hull scarred and venting atmosphere from multiple breaches. Emergency lights flickered across its surface. Captain Hyun's flagship, the destroyer Seoul, approached carefully, scanning for active weapons. Minimal power readings, the sensor operator reported. Some systems operational, but they are focused on life support and damage control. They might not even detect us until we are alongside. Perfect, Hyun said. Lieutenant Hana, you are cleared for boarding action. The Soul matched velocity with the tumbling cruiser, magnetic grapples firing across the gap to lock the two ships together. Marines in armored suits activated plasma cutters, carving through the alien hull. Sparks showered in the vacuum as metal peeled away, revealing darkness inside. Hana went through first, her magnetic boots engaging as she pulled herself into the alien vessel. Her helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors designed for beings much larger than humans. Emergency lighting provided dim illumination, casting strange shadows. Behind her, 20 Marines followed in disciplined formation. June held his rifle ready, scanning for threats. Bora carried the feedback device in a reinforced case, its weight significant even in zero gravity. Atmosphere is present but contaminated, Hana's suit computer reported. Recommend keeping helmets sealed. They moved deeper into the ship, following Bora's directions as she accessed wall terminals. The Viridian computer systems were complex but logical. After 2 minutes of work, Bora downloaded a partial ship layout. Reactor is 3 levels down central axis, she reported. But there is a problem. Life signs show over 100 Viridians still alive on this ship. We are outnumbered 5 to 1. Then we move fast and avoid unnecessary combat, Hana decided. Silent when possible, loud when necessary. They descended through maintenance shafts, avoiding main corridors. The alien ship creaked and groaned around them, damaged systems struggling to maintain integrity. Twice they heard Viridian voices echoing through passages but managed to avoid contact. The first fight came suddenly. 3 Viridian soldiers in powered armor rounded a corner, their energy rifles charging with a distinctive whine. But the confined corridor worked against them. Their sophisticated weapons needed clear firing lines. Hana's Marines simply opened fire immediately. Magnetic rounds, simple bullets accelerated electromagnetically, punched through alien armor at close range. The physics were straightforward. Heavy projectiles, high velocity, confined space. The Viridian soldiers went down before they could properly target the human intruders. Keep moving, Hana ordered, stepping over alien bodies. She felt no satisfaction, only grim determination. They reached the reactor level to find it defended. A dozen Viridian soldiers had established a barricade, clearly expecting the humans to come this direction. Energy weapons opened fire, plasma bolts scorching through the air. Joan took a hit, his armor absorbing most of the energy but leaving him with serious burns. He collapsed, crying out in pain. 2 Marines dragged him to cover while others returned fire. Grenades, Hana commanded. Explosive charges arced over the barricade, detonating with tremendous force. The Viridian defensive line shattered, soldiers falling back in disarray. Hana's team pushed forward through the smoke, their weapons chattering. The reactor room doors stood open. Inside, the Viridian power core hummed with barely contained energy, a crystalline structure pulsing with light. Bora rushed forward, attaching Dr. Mina's device to the reactor housing. 30 seconds to activation, Bora announced. Those 30 seconds stretched like hours. More Viridian soldiers arrived and the firefight intensified. 2 more Marines fell. Hana emptied her rifle's magazine, grabbed another, kept firing. Around her, the disciplined chaos of combat consumed everything. The device activated. A pulse of energy flooded through the ship's power systems, exploiting every weakness Mina had identified. The Viridian reactor, never designed to handle such interference, began cascading failures. Alarms wailed throughout the vessel. "Extract now!" Hana shouted into her radio. Everyone back to the breach point. The team retreated through the dying ship, fighting running battles with desperate Viridian soldiers who knew their vessel was doomed. The artificial gravity failed, making movement even more chaotic. Emergency bulkheads began sealing, trying to contain the spreading failures. They reached the breach point just as Captain Hyun's voice crackled through their helmets. "Sol is releasing grapples. You have 10 seconds." The team scrambled through the opening into the waiting destroyer. Hana did a quick count. 17 Marines returned. 3 had not made it. She felt each loss like a physical wound, but pushed the grief aside. Time for mourning later. The Soul pulled away from the dying Viridian cruiser. 5 seconds later, The alien reactor containment failed catastrophically. The explosion lit up space like a small sun, visible from Earth. General Tay watched from the command center as the cruiser vanished from sensors. Lieutenant Hana, report. Hana's voice came through, exhausted but steady. Mission successful, sir. Device performed as designed. Enemy vessel destroyed. For the first time in days, Tay allowed himself brief satisfaction. They had proven boarding operations could work. But the larger battle still loomed. In less than 30 hours, the Viridian reinforcements would arrive, and the real test would begin. The destruction of the damaged cruiser sent shockwaves through both fleets. General Kresh watched the explosion with growing fury. 8 cruisers lost now. 8. Against an enemy his intelligence reports had dismissed as harmless primitives, his remaining 7 cruisers pulled back even further, clearly spooked by humanity's willingness to board ships and destroy them from within. The Viridians had not faced such tactics in living memory. Their warfare had become civilized, conducted at safe distances with energy weapons and shields. The humans fought like animals, brutal and direct. On Earth, the mood was mixed. They had won another engagement, but the cost continued climbing. Lieutenant Hana sat in the medical bay, being treated for minor injuries while 3 empty body bags lay nearby. 3 Marines who would never see home again. Their families would receive folded flags and solemn words, but it would never be enough. Private June occupied the bed next to her, his burns being treated by medical staff. He would survive, but needed weeks of recovery time. Time they did not have. We did it, June said quietly. We actually destroyed their ship from inside. Yes, Hana replied. And now they know we can do it. They will be prepared next time. Every tactic only works once against intelligent opponents. Captain Day entered the medical bay, his face grave. Lieutenant, you should rest. The reinforcements arrive in 28 hours. I will rest when Earth is safe, sir. Day understood. Nobody could truly rest while an alien armada approached their homeworld. He sat down beside her bed. Your brother Jin asked about you. He saw the explosion from the lunar platform. He was worried. Tell him I am fine. Tell him to focus on his duty. I will. Across the solar system, Captain Hyun's strike force had not returned to Earth. Instead, they jumped deeper into space following intelligence provided by unexpected sources. Other coalition species concerned about Viridian aggression had begun secretly feeding information to humanity. Hyun studied the data on his command screen. Supply convoy routes, logistics schedules, weak points in Viridian operations. The enemy had grown complacent during decades of easy conquests. Their rear areas were poorly defended because nobody had dared attack them before. We can hurt them, Hyun told his officers. Not enough to stop the reinforcements, but enough to make them spread their forces thin. Create doubt in their commanders' minds. His tactical officer looked worried. Sir, these raids will be dangerous. We are operating far from support. Everything about this war is dangerous, but if we sit idle while waiting for the enemy, we surrender initiative. Better to act, even if the action is desperate. The strike force jumped to their first target, a Viridian supply depot in the outer reaches of the solar system. 6 transport ships sat at dock, being loaded with ammunition, fuel, and replacement parts for the battle fleet. 2 light escort vessels provided minimal security. Hyun's ships emerged from hyperspace already firing. Railguns tore into the unshielded transport vessels, explosions rippling through cargo holds. The escort ships tried to respond, but they were designed for anti-piracy work, not military combat. Human destroyers swarmed them, multiple ships concentrating fire. Within 10 minutes, the entire depot was debris. Hyun did not wait to confirm kills. His force jumped away immediately, heading to the next target on their list. For the next 20 hours, the human strike force appeared randomly across Viridian supply routes. They destroyed cargo vessels, damaged infrastructure stations, and forced the aliens to divert combat ships for convoy protection. It was not enough to prevent the reinforcements from arriving, but it created chaos and uncertainty. General Kresh received reports of the raids with mounting frustration. He needed every ship for the Earth assault, but now he had to detach cruisers to protect supply lines. The humans were everywhere, hitting and running before defenders could respond. How are they moving so quickly? Kresh demanded. Their hyperspace technology is supposed to be primitive. Vex studied sensor logs. They are using our own technology against us, General. Salvaged from destroyed vessels and reverse engineered. The drives are crude but functional. Resourceful insects, Kresh muttered. But he no longer sounded dismissive, only angry. On Earth, Dr. Mina worked frantically to produce more feedback devices. The boarding action had proven the concept worked, but manufacturing enough devices for a major battle required time they barely had. Engineer Sung helped her, both working without sleep. "We have 30 devices completed," Sung reported. "Enough to threaten 30 enemy ships if we can get boarding teams close enough." "That is a very large if," Mina replied. "After what happened to their cruiser, the Viridians will be watching for boarding attempts. Then we need them distracted." General Tay stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the entire solar system. Every screen told the same story. The Viridian reinforcements were approaching on schedule. 2 battle groups, 41 ships total when combined with Kresh's surviving cruisers. Against Earth's depleted defenses, Commander Bach completed final casualty reports. "Sir, we have lost 60% of our orbital platforms. Ammunition reserves are at 30%. Reactor feedback devices number 30 units. Personnel losses exceed 2,000. The numbers were brutal. Earth had fought well but could not sustain this pace of attrition. The coming battle would be decisive one way or another. What are our options?" General Park asked via holographic link. Tay considered carefully. "We pull all forces back to close Earth orbit. Create a defensive sphere using every remaining weapon. Make them come to us where our shorter-range weapons are most effective." "You are describing a last stand," Park observed. "I am describing a realistic assessment of our situation. We have hurt them badly. Destroyed multiple cruisers, disrupted their supply lines, forced them to respect human warfare. But they are adapting, and their reinforcements will be prepared for our tactics. If we are going to survive this war, we need one perfect battle." Captain Day pulled up defensive positions. "Sir, if we concentrate everything at Earth, we abandon the Mars colonies and outer settlements." "I know," Tay said quietly. "But we cannot defend everything. If Earth falls, the colonies become irrelevant. We must make the hardest choice." Orders went out across the solar system. All mobile military assets were to converge on Earth. The Mars Defense Force, the asteroid patrols, every ship that could fly. They would make their stand at humanity's homeworld. Lieutenant Hana recovered enough to return to duty. She stood on the bridge of the destroyer Busan, watching through viewports as the human fleet assembled. Dozens of ships, from massive battle cruisers to tiny patrol boats. Everything humanity could muster. Jin contacted her from the lunar platform. His young face appeared on her screen, trying to look brave. "Big sister, are we going to win?" "Hana chose honesty." "I do not know. But we are going to fight with everything we have. That is all anyone can do. I am scared. So am I. Being brave does not mean not being scared. It means doing your duty despite the fear." Jin nodded. "I will make you proud. You already have." The Viridian reinforcements arrived 26 hours after Hana's boarding mission. They emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, a display of overwhelming military power, 41 heavy warships, their shields glowing, weapons charged, ready for battle. General Kresh broadcast from his flagship, his voice filled with confidence. "Humans of Earth, you have fought well for primitives. You destroyed several of our vessels through trickery and desperation, but now you face the true might of the Viridian Empire. 3 full battle groups prepared for your tactics. Surrender immediately or face total annihilation." In the command center, General Tay stood before the main display showing the enemy fleet. Every officer waited for his response. The weight of billions of lives pressed down on him, but his voice remained steady. "General Kresh, thank you for the generous offer. Earth's response remains unchanged. Come and try." Kresh's laughter echoed through the channel. "So be it, you chose extinction. We shall grant it." The Viridian Armada began advancing in coordinated formation, dreadnoughts at the center, cruisers in supporting positions, their shields overlapping to create interlocking defensive layers. They moved slowly, carefully, giving humanity time to contemplate their doom. But General Tay was not contemplating doom. He was calculating angles of fire, coordination timing, and the exact moment to spring his final trap. "All forces hold position," Tay commanded. "Wait for my order. Let them come closer." The aliens advanced, plasma batteries charging, preparing to unleash devastating firepower. They expected the humans to fight desperately, uselessly. They expected to crush this resistance within hours. They did not expect what humanity had actually prepared. Dr. Mina stood in the underwater facility, her hands on the control interface. Weapon system standing by, General. Awaiting your command. Captain Hyun's strike force returned from their raids, held position behind the moon. 12 battered ships crewed by exhausted sailors but still ready to fight. Lieutenant Hana gripped the railing of her destroyer, watching the alien fleet grow larger in the viewports. Private June, released from medical care against doctor's orders, stood at his combat station. Across Earth and throughout the human fleet, millions held their breath. The Viridian fleet stumbled into chaos as electromagnetic interference blinded their sensors. Ships that relied on sophisticated computer coordination suddenly found themselves isolated, unable to communicate with each other. Their perfect formation began breaking apart as individual captains made their own decisions. General Kresh shouted orders from his flagship, but his commands could not reach most of his fleet. The humans had turned the very sophistication of Viridian technology against them. Advanced systems required clear communications, precise sensor data, coordinated responses. Strip those away and even the most powerful warship became vulnerable. Switch to manual targeting, Kresh ordered his bridge crew. Electromagnetic interference cannot stop our eyes. But manual targeting was slow, imprecise, and the Viridians had not trained for it in decades. Their military doctrine assumed sensor superiority, computer-assisted aiming, automated responses. Fighting without those advantages left them fumbling. Human forces, trained for exactly this kind of degraded combat, pressed their advantage ruthlessly. The hidden lunar railguns fired in continuous barrages, tungsten rods screaming through space at tremendous velocities. Without coordinated point defense, the Viridian ships struggled to intercept incoming projectiles. 3 cruisers took direct hits within the first 2 minutes, their shields unable to deflect the solid metal impacts. Captain Hyun's strike force emerged from behind the moon, engines flaring as they accelerated toward the confused enemy formation. His 12 ships were outnumbered and outgunned, but in the chaos, numbers mattered less than aggression. All ships, pick your targets and engage at close range, Hyun commanded. Make them fight the kind of battle they have forgotten how to win. The human destroyers and frigates dove into the Viridian fleet like wolves among sheep. At close quarters, the alien advantage in long-range plasma weapons diminished. Human magnetic rifles and railguns proved devastatingly effective when ships passed within meters of each other. Lieutenant Hana stood on the bridge of the Busan as her destroyer raked fire across a Viridian cruiser's hull. The enemy vessel tried to rotate, bringing weapons to bear, but the Busan was faster and more maneuverable. Human ships had been designed for solar system combat where agility mattered. The Viridian vessels were built for interstellar travel and deep space battles. Target their engine section, Hana ordered. Disable them. Railgun rounds punched into the cruiser's drive units, explosions rippling through the engineering spaces. The alien ship went dead in space, momentum carrying it in a slow tumble. The Busan moved on to the next target without pausing. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships swarmed isolated Viridian vessels, concentrating fire, exploiting every moment of confusion. The aliens tried to reform their lines, but the electromagnetic interference persisted, keeping them blind and separated. On Earth's surface, Dr. Mina monitored the microwave satellites with fierce concentration, power levels holding steady. We can maintain this interference for another 30 minutes before the systems overheat. Make it 40 minutes, General Tay replied. We need every second. The battle entered its most desperate phase. As the initial shock wore off, Viridian discipline began reasserting itself. Individual ship captains coordinated through visual signals, using their viewports and optical telescopes like ancient naval commanders. They started forming smaller battle groups, protecting each other's flanks. General Kresh, finally establishing contact with parts of his fleet through tight-beam laser communications, issued new orders. All ships focus fire on the lunar installations. Destroy their railgun positions. 6 Viridian dreadnoughts, the largest and most powerful vessels in the fleet, concentrated their plasma batteries on the moon. Lances of superheated energy struck the surface, melting rock and destroying the hidden emplacements. Explosions bloomed across the lunar landscape as ammunition stores detonated. Jin watched from his station as the platform next to his took a direct hit. The structure simply vanished, vaporized by plasma heat that could melt steel in microseconds. His hand shook on the controls, but he kept firing, kept doing his duty. Platform 7 is gone, he reported. Platform 9 heavily damaged. We are losing the lunar batteries. General Tay received the report calmly. He had expected this. The lunar positions were powerful but static, vulnerable once the enemy located them. They had served their purpose, buying precious time and destroying several enemy ships. Now it was time for the next phase. Activate the boarding teams, Tay commanded. All 30 units launch now. Across the human fleet, small assault shuttles detached from their mother ships. Each shuttle carried a team of Marines and one of Dr. Mina's reactor feedback devices. Their mission was simple and suicidal. Reach the Viridian ships, breach the hulls, plant the devices, destroy the enemy from within. The aliens spotted the shuttles immediately, even through the interference. Point defense systems engaged. Plasma burst, destroying some shuttles before they could reach their targets. But enough got through. 15 shuttles successfully attached to enemy hulls, cutting torches flaring as Marines breached the alien armor. Lieutenant Hana had volunteered to lead one of the boarding teams despite her recent mission. She pulled herself through the breach into another Viridian vessel, her rifle ready. Behind her, 10 Marines followed, including young Bora carrying another feedback device. The fighting inside was brutal and immediate. Viridian soldiers, prepared this time for human tactics, had established defensive positions throughout their ships. Energy weapons and magnetic rifles exchanged fire in narrow corridors, the confined spaces turning every engagement into a desperate close-quarters battle. "Push forward," Hana shouted over the gunfire. "We need to reach the reactor." Her team fought through 3 levels, leaving casualties on both sides. 2 Marines fell to plasma fire. A Viridian soldier died when June shot him at point-blank range. The violence was terrible and relentless. They reached the reactor room to find it heavily fortified. 20 Viridian soldiers in full-powered armor blocked their path, energy weapons creating a wall of fire that nothing could survive. Hana made a decision. "Bora, give me the device." "Lieutenant, you cannot carry it alone. I am not planning to carry it far." Hana took the device and activated its timer. "Everyone fall back to the breach point." "That is an order." June grabbed her arm. "We are not leaving you." "Yes, you are. Someone needs to ensure this device reaches the reactor. I will buy you time to escape." She pushed him toward the exit. "Go. Tell my brother I am proud of him." Before anyone could argue further, Hana charged toward the Viridian defensive line. Her rifle fired on full automatic as she ran, drawing every enemy weapon toward her. Plasma bolts struck her armor, burning through in multiple places. Pain exploded through her body, but she kept moving, kept firing, kept advancing. The feedback device fell from her hands as she collapsed, sliding across the deck toward the reactor room. Close enough. Bora, tears streaming down her face, triggered the device remotely. The pulse activated, flooding through the ship's power systems. Around Hana, the lights flickered and died. Emergency alarms wailed. The Viridian soldiers stopped firing, realizing too late what was happening. Hana smiled despite the pain. Mission accomplished. The reactor went critical, and the cruiser exploded from within. Across the battlefield, 13 more Viridian ships suffered similar fates as other boarding teams successfully deployed their devices. The alien fleet, already disrupted and damaged, suddenly lost a third of its remaining strength. General Kresh watched in horror as his carefully assembled armada fell apart. 27 ships destroyed or disabled. His remaining vessels were scattered, damaged, their crews demoralized. The humans had fought with tactics that seemed primitive, barbaric, but devastatingly effective. "General, we must withdraw," Vex urged. "We cannot win this battle." Kresh wanted to refuse, wanted to continue fighting, but tactical reality crushed his pride. He had lost. Lost to a species the Coalition had dismissed as harmless. Lost using weapons his civilization considered obsolete. "All ships retreat to hyperspace jump distance," Kresh ordered, his voice hollow. "We withdraw." The surviving Viridian vessels, barely 14 ships from the original 41, disengaged and fled. Human forces, too exhausted and damaged to pursue, watched them go. In the command center, General Tay allowed himself to sit down for the first time in hours. Around him, officers celebrated, their relief palpable. Earth had survived. Humanity had won. But the victory felt hollow when Captain Day approached with casualty reports. "Sir, we lost 16 boarding teams." Lieutenant Hana was among them. "Her brother Jin is requesting information." Tay closed his eyes briefly. "Tell Private Jin that his sister died a hero. Her actions saved Earth." The words felt inadequate, but they were all he had. Across the solar system, the guns fell silent. Debris fields marked where great ships had died. Rescue crews searched for survivors and damaged vessels. Medical facilities overflowed with wounded. The cost of victory was written in thousands of names, thousands of families who would grieve. Dr. Mina stood in the underwater facility looking at her hands. She had designed weapons that killed efficiently. She had helped humanity win. But she felt no joy, only exhaustion and sorrow for the lives her inventions had taken on both sides. Engineer Sung found her there. We won. 3 weeks after the battle, Earth was still recovering. Debris fields around the planet were being cleared slowly, massive chunks of destroyed warships salvaged for their technology and metals. The lunar surface bore scars from plasma bombardment, craters that would remain for millennia, as reminders of the day humanity fought for its survival. General Tay stood at the memorial wall where names were being engraved, thousands of names, each representing a life given in defense of Earth. His finger traced over one name in particular, Lieutenant Hana. She had been 28 years old, brilliant, brave, and now gone forever. Private Jin stood beside him in dress uniform, his burns healed but emotional scars still fresh. He had requested permission to attend the memorial dedication, and Tay had approved immediately. The young man deserved to honor his sister properly. She saved us all, Jin said quietly. Her sacrifice allowed the device to reach the reactor. Without that, the boarding mission would have failed. She was a hero, Tay agreed, as were all who gave their lives. We owe them a debt that can never be repaid. We can honor them by building something worth their sacrifice, Jin replied. A future where humanity stands equal among the stars, not as conquerors, but as defenders of freedom. Tay looked at the young private with new respect. Loss had matured him quickly. You sound like your sister. She would be proud of who you are becoming. Across the planet, similar memorials were being built. Cities raised monuments to the fallen. Schools taught children about the battle, ensuring future generations would remember. The war had transformed humanity, uniting them in ways decades of diplomacy had failed to achieve. In the underwater facility, Dr. Mina and Engineer Sung worked on a very different project. Not weapons this time, but diplomatic tools. The Galactic Coalition had reached out to Earth immediately after the Viridian retreat, and the tone was completely different from the first contact. Ambassador Thrall is requesting another meeting, Sung reported. The same alien who dismissed our weapons as primitive toys. Mina smiled without humor. I imagine his perspective has changed. The meeting took place in orbit, aboard a neutral coalition station. General Tay led the human delegation, accompanied by Captain Day, Commander Bach, and Dr. Mina. They wore formal uniforms, projecting strength and dignity. Ambassador Thrall waited in the conference chamber, but his arrogance had vanished. He stood when the humans entered, a gesture of respect he had not shown during their first meeting. Several other coalition ambassadors were present, representing species humanity had never encountered. General Tay, Thrall began, his translator device rendering his words carefully. On behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I apologize for our initial assessment of Earth's capabilities. You have proven that advancement cannot be measured by technology alone. We have proven that underestimating your opponent is a fatal mistake, Tay replied evenly. We did not want war. We would have preferred peaceful integration. But we will never submit to conquest. An ambassador from a species called the Korean stepped forward. She was small, barely 4 feet tall, with blue skin and large eyes that suggested intelligence. Humanity's victory over the Viridian Empire has created ripples throughout the galaxy. For too long, the Viridians have expanded unchecked, their military might allowing them to dominate weaker species. You have shown they can be defeated. At terrible cost, Captain Day noted. We lost thousands of people. Our infrastructure is damaged. Our resources depleted. Victory does not feel glorious when you count the dead. All victories against tyranny come with cost, the Korean ambassador replied. But they also bring hope. 17 coalition species are now petitioning for defensive alliances with Earth. They want to learn your tactics, understand your weapons, prepare their own defenses. This surprised the human delegation. They had fought to survive, not to become military teachers. But the logic was sound. If other species could defend themselves effectively, the Viridian Empire would face resistance across multiple fronts. General Tay considered the implications carefully. We will share our knowledge, but with conditions. We will not arm aggressors or support conquest. Our weapons exist for defense, not expansion. Agreed, Thrall said quickly. The Coalition is proposing full membership for Earth, with representation in the Council and access to advanced technologies. Medical science, energy systems, agricultural improvements, we offer these freely as recognition of your achievement. Dr. Mina leaned forward. Why the sudden generosity? 3 months ago you dismissed us as primitive. Thrall had the grace to look uncomfortable, because we were blind. We measured worth by our own standards and ignored capabilities we no longer possessed. Your people retain skills we have forgotten. The ability to fight without sophisticated technology, to improvise weapons from basic materials, to coordinate without computers. These are valuable, perhaps more valuable than we realized. The negotiations continued for hours. Earth would receive technology transfers, economic partnerships, and defensive alliances. In return, humanity would provide military consultation and tactical training to coalition species seeking to improve their defenses. But the most important agreement was simple. Earth would remain independent sovereign, free to chart its own course among the stars. No species would attempt conquest again without facing unified opposition. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal. Cities that had evacuated underground emerged cautiously. Factories that had produced weapons began converting back to civilian goods. But everything had changed in subtle ways. Captain Hyun was promoted to admiral, placed in charge of Earth's expanding fleet. His experience in unconventional warfare made him invaluable, as humanity began building ships capable of protecting their interests beyond the solar system. Bora, the young technical specialist who had survived the boarding action, became an instructor at the new Space Warfare Academy. Students hung on her every word as she described real combat, the chaos and terror and split-second decisions that determined life and death. Private June received a promotion to sergeant and assignment to the new Marine Expeditionary Force. He trained recruits in close-quarters combat, teaching them the brutal lessons learned aboard alien vessels. His burns had healed into scars he wore with quiet pride. Engineer Sung led the team reverse engineering captured Viridian technology. Every destroyed ship had provided treasure troves of information. Human scientists worked to understand alien power systems, propulsion methods, and shield technology, not to copy them exactly, but to adapt them to human needs. Dr. Mina took a different path. She retired from weapons research and joined the medical team working on technologies acquired from the Coalition. Alien medical science could cure diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. She felt her skills would be better used saving lives rather than taking them. General Tay remained in command of Earth's military, but his role expanded to include diplomatic functions. He traveled to Coalition worlds, met with military leaders from dozens of species, shared hard-won knowledge about asymmetric warfare. Everywhere he went, he encountered the same reaction. Respect mixed with wariness. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not through art or philosophy or scientific achievement, but through successful violence. Other species understood that message clearly. 6 months after the battle, the Viridian Empire formally requested peace negotiations. General Kresh, stripped of command and facing political disgrace, was not among the delegation. His replacement was a younger officer who approached with appropriate humility. The Empire acknowledges its aggression was unjustified, the Viridian diplomat stated. We propose a non-aggression pact and trade agreements as compensation for damages inflicted. General Tay studied the alien carefully. And if we refuse? Then we will respect your decision and maintain distance from human space. We have no desire for further conflict. The terms were generous, almost desperate. The Viridian Empire had learned what happened when they underestimated an opponent. Their military reputation was damaged, their political stability questioned. They needed peace more than Earth did. We accept, Tay finally said, but with monitoring provisions. If Viridian ships approach our territory without permission, we will consider it an act of war. Understood and agreed. The treaty was signed aboard the Coalition station, witnessed by dozens of species. The Viridian Empire, once seemingly invincible, had been humbled by a species using weapons they considered obsolete. On Earth, celebrations erupted, not the desperate relief after battle, but genuine joy. The war was truly over. Peace was secured. Humanity could finally look toward the future without immediate existential threat. General Tay returned home to find his grandchildren waiting. They asked him about the war, about the aliens, about what it meant to be human in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations. He thought carefully before answering. It means we face challenges with whatever tools we have available. It means we never surrender when defending what we love. It means our worth is not determined by others' standards, but by our own actions. Are we still primitive? His granddaughter asked. Tay smiled. In some ways, yes. We have much to learn from the galaxy. But primitive does not mean weak or inferior. It means we remember lessons others have forgotten. We know how to fight when sophisticated weapons fail.